Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Harder Not Smarter podcast. Today, we have an amazing guest, Gina Casazza, who has probably the coolest story of just randomness that got her into this space of working with special operators. But it really started off with her going to her mom and being like, "Do you think I could survive a kidnapping?" And mind you, for anybody not watching, and you really can't see even if you are, Gina's not a large human. She says she's 100 pounds ish, soaking wet.
Yeah, 5 feet tall, it's tiny.
And I don't know how this came up. I'm sure it was just a random bar conversation or something like that. But she had the idea of, can I survive being kidnapped? And her mom's like, absolutely not. You're screwed. So she's like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to figure out how to train for this. And she stumbled upon SEER training, like a civilian version of SEER training. So for anybody not familiar with that, that's survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. It's what the military puts its people through who might be in harm's way and run the risk of getting stuck behind enemy lines. Greg and I both done it. It's where they harass you, interrogate you, give you slight physical discomfort. I'll just air quotes. There, it's my fingers. Slight physical discomfort in preparation in case you get stuck and are captive with the enemy. And Gina decided to sign up for one of these and then realized she got a little bit over her head and found John McLaren.
Yes,
McLean.
John McLaren. Yeah.
McLaren. John McLean is Die Hard. That'd be really cool if that was the same. And started doing training, which put her down this huge path of talking with special operators about mindset and overcoming life obstacles. So that was a long intro about her background. But Gina, welcome to the show. I'm excited to hear how this whole thing really unfolded.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here. You guys are cool. I was like, I had to reach out to you too. I saw an episode and I was just like, you guys have an interesting story because you're from just someone that's a civilian now working with special ops and so alongside them. Great marketing for you guys. Great idea.
We like to have a little fun with it. Throw in the Army side, the Navy side, a sprinkle in of the Marine Corps, no Air Force. No, I still respect you guys. Coast Guard, you're on your own.
Have we? Yeah, we haven't had. We definitely haven't had anybody from the Coast Guard. Have we had anybody from the Air Force?
Atlas.
No. Oh,
Atlas Altman.
Atlas.
He's on my show.
That was another one.
I obviously joking. Love Atlas, but got to give him some shit while we're at it as well.
At Team Eagle 1, they used to make fun of anyone besides the Navy, and that's why I think it's kind of interesting because you guys are not making fun of each other as much as the others.
We don't make I make fun of Kevin quite a bit. Kevin thinks I'm sensitive, so I don't think he really goes after me too much. He's right. I'm sensitive.
He's delicate.
Sensitive.
Those Green Berets, they have a gentleman's course to get through the Green Beret training. But what makes Gina such a phenomenal guest is she also has her own podcast. She's been, or is, I don't think you've stopped, a stand-up comedian. You work in the comedy space with TV shows. You've worked alongside people like Ralph Macchio, who I am excited to learn about because childhood hero. Also, I want to hear about your stance of whether you abide by Karate Kid being the villain or the hero.
Oh, interesting.
It's always an interesting topic.
That's an interesting topic. I will say I did stop stand-up comedy for a bit. I may get back into it, but with everything I have going on, it was just, I was like, this has to go on pause. People don't realize it's a lot of work getting up on there, that stage and the craft and, those that are really, really good at it, it sounds so natural, and that's not easy. It's like just to make it sound like I'm not reading off of a paper that I wrote on, though you don't see the paper, but yeah, I had to take a break from that. But I love it. It's fun. And the Ralph Macchio, I'll tell you, if he called me today and he was like, Gina, I can't pay you, but I really need you to work for me, I'd drop everything. So that's how great he was. Like that's how awesome he was. Just throwing.
How did that one come about?
I was working on Dancing with the Stars.
Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, I graduated college early, lost my hearing. Like right when I graduated college, I lost all hearing in my left ear, went completely deaf. And I just got back from Argentina for like a winter abroad thing. And my mom was like, oh, there's this job on Craigslist. They're looking. It's like $750 for the week. And I was like, I just went deaf. I just graduated college. Normal people take a year off. Like, I'm not applying for anything. And she was like, no, look, she just put me in. And then next thing you know, I had to like go into college the next day to, I guess, like pick up diploma or something like that. And they called and they were like, hey, we got your resume. We're Dancing with the Stars. Have you heard of us? And I'm like, I live on Earth. And they're like, we want to hire you. And I was just like, okay, I guess I'm hired. So then Ralph was my first celebrity. And it was awesome. And the next thing you know, I end up moving out to LA, working a couple of seasons for Dancing with the Stars. And then Ralph called and was like, this was on Long Island, by the way. And I then moved out to LA after Ralph. And he called me and was like, Gina, I'm directing my first film. It's a short film on Netflix. I think it was called Across Grace Alley. I'm looking for an assistant. Come work for me. And I went back to New York and I said, okay. And I worked for him for a little bit. And that's how I moved into scripted TV from that.
Nice. And I can see exactly how the kidnapping conversation came up, seeing as how you applied to a random job posting on Craigslist.
Believe it or not, my next Craigslist job that I applied to was director's assistant, and it turned out to be Penny Marshall. And for those that don't know Penny, because she's dead now, but and she's older. She was really old. She was Hollywood royalty. She directed A League of Their Own, Big. She was Laverne and Shirley. Like, she's a big deal. And I had no idea who she was. And like I knew of her, but like she was huge by the time I got to her place compared to Laverne and Shirley, which is like a little twig. So I get to the house and like nobody would say who she was. Like the assistant and the old assistant were interviewing me. And they just kept saying she. I don't know who she was. And then they were like, you'll meet with her tomorrow, because I guess I advanced to the next round. And then I get to the house and I meet her. And I just had no idea who she didn't introduce herself. Nobody said her name. I'm just like, am I just supposed to know? And sometimes with these celebrities, they just expect you to know who they are. And then she just started talking about like Whitney Houston and like when she's like, when I did Preacher's Wife, and I was like, oh, good, I have that to look up. And then when I was backing out on the driveway, I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is who she is. And I was like, I wouldn't have known. I had no idea.
I would have been right there with you. I'm like, who is this lady who thinks I should know who she is and is going to be very upset if I don't know who she is just by facial recognition?
Yeah. And facial recognition from 50 years ago to the day that like from that time, the very different faces going on,
Well, especially around Hollywood, where they probably don't keep they have their plastic surgeons on speed dial and any fillers and anything else.
Yeah, she wasn't really into any of that stuff. She was just like 300 pounds compared to the like 120 she was at 50 years ago. I worked for her for 5 years. I could say whatever I want.
I've earned this right. So you're going through this, and you have you starting off in Hollywood with Penny, with Ralph. Did you know you wanted to go the comedy route while doing this stuff, or this is like all these things just kind of unfolding before you, and you're just picking your path through life?
It just happened. It was like Penny said to me, I credit a lot to her. She went through 5 assistants in like the month before she found me. Okay. So she was very difficult, but for some reason, me and her, we like jived. And she was like, why do you want to be a director? That was my thing. I want to be a director. And she was like, no, you're an actress. You belong in front of the camera. I'm like, I'm terrified of like speaking in public. I was the child, by the way, that never spoke in school. Like teacher called on me, like cherry red, words couldn't come out of my mouth. Like that person. It's funny. I became a stand-up comic. And she was like, no, you belong in front of the camera. And then her brother said the same thing. And her brother was like, oh my God, Gary Marshall. I was like obsessed. I was more excited that when I found out I was working for Penny, that there's a possibility of meeting her brother, versus her. But she said it, he said it. And that night I went out to a Hollywood party and someone introduced me to someone who happened to be an acting coach. And I was like, oh God.
I need you.
Yeah, I said, my boss said I should join an acting class. So here I am. So, can I, clearly you're here for a reason. Can I just join your class? And he was like, yeah, Monday. And then I was like that weekend dreading Monday, and I did it. And then I literally like wanted to throw up like before, like I just dreamt as I'm waiting for the teacher to open up the door, like of just getting in my car and leaving. And it was just it was just, I don't know, have you guys felt nervous like going into the career paths that you went into or the pressure that you faced? But like this was just, I don't know, level of nerves I've never hit. And then it was my turn to get up on the stage, and oh my God. And then when you finish, it's like this rush, like, oh my God, like I just faced this like most uncomfortable thing in my life. And I hated and loved it at the same time. And I said, I guess I have to continue. And the goal was to continue, not to be an actress. The goal was to get to the point where that uncomfortability would go away. Would like to a point like where like, yeah, you still get the like that excitement, but not like to a paralyzing point. And then I ended up with like loving it. And then I went the actress route, and then I went to go see a comedy show with a friend, and I was like, I could do that. And he was like, what? And I'm like, give me 4 weeks. I'll be on the same stage. It was the Comedy Store, but it was like not the main stage, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, 4 weeks, I'll be up on that stage. And then, like literally 2 weeks into those 4 weeks, I had nothing. I had no material. I didn't know what I was doing. And then a friend of mine invited me to a movie premiere. Like it wasn't like a movie premiere. It was like, she was in a movie and it was premiering in the theater, and we were going out to dinner, just intimate, like a couple of us. Girl I happened to be sitting next to was a stand-up comic, and she's also a Laker fan. And I go, Penny got floor seats to the Lakers. I'll give you floor seat tickets to the Lakers. Give me some comedy lessons. And she did. 2 weeks later, I did a little show, and that ended up at the Comedy Store. And that is how I said what I was going to do, and I did it. Then it just snowballed from there. Yeah, I won that. And then Nick Swartzen offered to have me open for him the next day at his show. and then boom, I was like, maybe I got something here. I'll continue with this. And I did.
So you did one stand-up comedy show, and you had Nick Swartzen being like, hey, I want you to open for me now. Obviously, you had some connections at the point, but still.
I had, I was waitressing, and he was a regular at the place I was, and I was like, Nick, I just did my show, and he's like, how'd it go? And I'm like, it was so good. I don't know, I'm good. Like, at the time for me, it was great, And then he was like, oh, come open for me, and I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I'm performing at the Improv this weekend. Come do my show. I'll give you 8 minutes. And I'm like, I only have 4. And he's like, whatever you got, just come on by. And I did. Yeah.
That's awesome. I would rather be shot at than go into acting classes. Like that sounds like the worst thing. Like that sounds like my worst nightmare is getting up on stage.
Greg, rank these. Okay. Getting shot at, doing a stand-up comedy skit, being a politician.
Oh God. I mean, like easily like I would rather get shot at. Like that's number one. I would say being a politician is definitely last. Like, I don't know.
Greg hates that idea of being a politician is like the worst thing in the world for him.
See, the thing is that you guys have been shot at, so like, oh, like I made it through. Like for me, doing acting and stand-up comedy was like, the acting thing, like lasting out, paralyzing. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, okay. For me, being shot at, number one, no. But then again, now I feel like I should go go get like paintball experience. I've done that before, but like something to get over this now. This is my problem, is you say something like this, and then I go test it out. That's my problem.
You're going to go ask your mom, how do you think I would do in a firefight? And your mom's going to be like, terribly.
You die.
And you're going to be like, well, now I'm going to go join the military.
Exactly.
But I absolutely love the mentality you have. You're like, you get this thing that terrifies you, or that you don't feel confident about, or you don't think you're going to be good at. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to prove to myself that I either can or can't. It's not going to be I don't think I can, so I'm just not going to do it. You're like, I'm going to go do this, see how it comes out, and then make a decision from there whether or not I actually can. Like whether it's, I guess the first one, your mom applied for the job, but put in for the job with big name celebrities to be personal assistants. You want to do acting, you do stand up, getting kidnapped, like all these things. Well, let's figure out how to actually make it happen, which really lends itself to, and if you just looked at your LinkedIn, there's like 8 different things in there you're working on. You've been assistants for people. You have a how would you describe the Omnia stuff? Is it like it's a crystal bracelet, smart
Yeah,
bracelet thing?
it's tech jewelry. Yeah. Some of the stuff is like, you can't, when you have so much going on, you have to understand that not all of it is going to be like this. You can't put full time into any of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that becomes a hobby at one point when you go, okay, like what is making me the most money and what can I double down on to, put food on the table and to then make me enough money to then go to these other hobbies and then build them as a business, because one business has to at least soar where you get some money to be like, okay, now I'm going to get some help for this business, see if this goes somewhere or not. And that's the thing. Like, it's one of the reasons why the podcast ended up going in the direction that it went into, because I want people to get inspired to live life, essentially. I feel like we have these ideas. Oh, I want to be an author. Well, go be an author. Like, just write a book. Like, oh, I'm curious on what it's going to be like as a comic, or, like, what's it like scuba diving? We'll go scuba dive. Like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel. Just start it up. So I'm just like, that's the whole purpose. And the reason why it's like, I do what I do and I share it out there. I'm so personal, by the way, like in terms of like, I've dated somebody that my family didn't even know. Immediate family knew, like they met him and stuff like that. But my extended family had no idea. And they were like, you never posted about it. I go, why would I post about my personal life? Like, it's my personal life. But so I'm like not one to like I like this social media part of my life where like I'm doing a mindset challenge right now with the podcast, and every single day I'm doing a new challenge, and the goal is to inspire 10,000 people to do hard things and do challenges and put themselves through that to build mental toughness and grit. So like I have to be recording me all the time, and I'm forgetting that, that's just part of the business process. And the thing is like the more and more you put yourself out there, the more and more you take an idea and just execute it. Like Kyle Bucket said on my podcast, like he's like, ideas are shit. Execution is everything. Like test it out, see how it goes. Who cares if you fail? And you have to get past that fear of failure that many of us are. What's it like? That's a big fear for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's what holds us back.
I mean, that's all fear is unknowingness about a situation, like being afraid of the dark. You just don't know what's in there. Being afraid
Right.
of going to buds or becoming a special operator. It's not becoming the special operator. It's are you afraid of what's going to happen? Are you going to be able to make it through training? How are you going to react under pressure? Is your body going to hold out? It's all unknowns. And so once you finally put yourself in the scenario, it becomes much less fear and more adrenaline and awareness. And so you can be uncomfortable, but you're no longer fearful because you've seen what's going on, and you're able to actually envision where this path is going to take you, and you can kind of see an outcome. And so what you've been doing is remarkable. Most people, they see something like, nope, I'm not going to do that. That's scary. You're like, no, I'm going to inject myself into that situation, full immersion, getting kidnapped, and seeing how you react. And then as you build up these tolerances and this perspective of knowing how you react, knowing what you're capable of, knowing how uncomfortable you can make yourself, makes everything else in life much easier and less stressful. And that's some of the stuff we talk about, Greg and I talk about with the mindset stuff, is if you're able to put yourself routinely in uncomfortable situations, when you are in a unexpected uncomfortable situation, you're able to act and react much more calmly, because you're like, oh, I've already, I've been surf tortured, I've been shot at, I've had explosions going off next to me, I've had people shooting next to me. This situation with business, we'll work through it. We'll find some solutions. We can keep going. I'm not gonna freak out and lose my mind and cause everyone else to dip into chaos and panic.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, that's really what you guys do, though, which I find so interesting, is like there's a lot of pressure too. Like from what I've been learning from the Green Berets on the show, it's like they teach you and they throw you out there. You gotta pass or fail, and if you fail, they give you another chance to test it to try again, and then you have to go for it. And for me, like the second chance is the worst part, because that pressure can be like so paralyzing, because it's like I want to succeed, like I don't want to just get let go. And I think that for me, quitting would be like the worst thing. Like I much rather them say like goodbye versus me saying goodbye like on my own. However, what I also like to put myself through also teaches me that the first time you do something, it's going to be frustrating. The first time you do it, you may not succeed at it. And, getting that second chance and learning and growing from that experience to get to a finish line, whatever finish line that is, it could be, that this isn't for me, or, this is for me. You don't know, but not quitting the first time, not, understanding the frustration that comes with what you're doing. And like today, I have a treading water challenge, which for some people are like treading water, but for me, I'm terrified of the water. Like just thinking about, I keep staring out. I live on the beach, keep staring out at the ocean, hoping I could get in when there is the most people in the ocean. Because I'm like, there is a less chance a shark is going to just drag me under treading water for 5 minutes if I am with other people than by myself. And then I'm jumping to the pool treading water too. And I'm like, well, at least someone will be there to save me if something happens. And it's not like I can't swim. I took swim class. It's just the water scares me. But I know that like there is a chance I might not pass this challenge, and that's okay. But the point is I'm doing it. And if I am close, I'm going to do it again and again and again until I at least go, okay, this isn't for me, or I made it. Like life is frustrating. Life is hard. Everything is new at some point in our lives. And when you could learn to get over that and just push through, that's a mentality that a lot of us don't have. And it sounds so easy and simple. And yet way too many people just quit. They don't want to do what you guys went through. They don't want to put themselves through that. And what I like to inspire people to do is to do that, because if you could see a female under 100 pounds, 5 feet tall, doing it, like, all those keyboard warriors out there that come for me because I couldn't do a pull-up one time in my life, and then still make fun of me because I can only do 4. Well, you know what? I'm making it to 5 one day. I'm just, it's just, you just have to just put yourself out there and see what happens,
Yeah, you've
100%.
definitely embodied the man in the arena mentality. You familiar with that story or quote?
Love that one. Yeah, I don't. That's another thing. It doesn't bother me if you want to comment and say, "Oh, look at this girl like doing this," or "Oh, look at her playing military." Whatever you want to say. You're not in the arena with me. You're not playing military with me. Come on down, play, and then we'll have a chat. But until you're doing it, I don't care what you're saying to me. It doesn't bother me.
One of my favorite accounts on Instagram is just this. It's people making comments about people working out and like say, just like making fun of them. And so then it like pans to this like huge like bodybuilder dude, and he like all he does is like he clicks over to their accounts and then looks at them, and it's just like these like super out of shape or like 120-pound dudes like soaking wet. They're just like talking like, oh, what shitty form. And it's like, who the fuck are you to like, who are you to talk about somebody's form? I don't know. It cracks me up every single time I see it.
I think I know that guy. But with your journey real quick. So you had the conversation with your mom. um, about the kidnapping. You discovered the SEER school part, and then you realized you needed training, so you found John McLaren, former SEAL, to train
Mhm.
you. Walk us through that whole experience. Did you end up going to SEER school? Did you end up getting somebody to fake kidnap you?
Yeah, yeah, did that. Well, kind of did that. It was like 2021, beginning 2021. It was a quick, brief convo with my mom. It was just like I was living in LA at the time. She was visiting me, and we've been traveling for the last 2020. We were traveling a bit, and so I haven't been in LA for a while. And then I came back to check my apartment out and stuff. And it's like apocalypse now still. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is everything still shut down? And the news was crazy and all this stuff was happening. And my mom was just like, we got to get tougher. We got to test our mindset. Like these, like, especially because like people were calling the cops on us for like walking the dog across the street with no mask on. And we were just like, oh my God. And LA was just getting crazy. People were stabbing people. No one cared. So it was just
LA is
like
such a dumpster fire.
yeah, it was like it was crazy. And I'm just like, oh my God, do you think I could survive a kidnapping? Like someone comes at me right now, throws me in trunk. Do you think I can make it? And she was like, no. And I'm like, you answer that way too quickly. I'm like, think about it. Look at me. She goes, I'm looking. Like you're not making it. And it's just like, oh my God, like there has to be like a school like that. And she was like, what? And I'm like, there got to be like a kidnapping experience. And in my mind, for anyone that's in business, that's like, oh, that's like, I'm giving you a business idea right now. This is amazing. For some reason, it came in my mind where I give this company my information and they like do a little stalking. And at some point, come up from behind, try and kidnap me. And then, I either get through it or I don't get through it, but we evaluate it. And then they do it again at some point, and then we see if I learned anything from the first time. That's what I was thinking in my mind. And that sounds absolutely insane when you really say it out loud, but that's what I was going for. Couldn't find that. But I did find this survival course, and there was a survival school out there, and it said civilian seer. And I had no idea what it was, but I saw the word kidnapping in the description, and I was just like, that's what I'm looking for. And I called up the guy, and I'm like, listen, I just know if I can make it through kidnapping. Like, what is this about? And he's like, oh, this is perfect for you. And he was really selling it, salesman. And I was like, signed up, no refunds. And well, I will tell you that so the course was in May. This is February now. Course was in May and it was all booked up. He's like, but if you get the membership, he goes, you automatically in for an extra $350. And I'm like, I have that. California's just giving away money right now. I'm rolling in money from all money they've been giving me. And I'm like, membership. And I bought this membership. I paid like $850 to get kidnapped. And and then
This is
I
a
looked
great business model.
right. And I like looked into it and I was just like, oh my God. Like, and I looked at the photos they had too. It was like, I'm pretty sure I looked at the photos, something. And it was like bag over your head. They're like zip tying or handcuffing you. Like I find out they torture you. Like and you get hunted in the woods. Like at one point you escape. The whole point is to escape. And then they hunt you in the woods all night. And I'm just like, my family's never camped a day in their life. And it was like, I'm like, we went on cruises as kids. We didn't go camping. Like, it's like very different lifestyle. And my family, I have no camping equipment. I don't, and also it's Southern California. I don't even own a coat. So I was like quickly realizing like, I'm not going to make it. And I'm so high maintenance in a point, like I'm not so high maintenance in terms of like makeup and what I look like. That no, but I'm like shower in filtered water. Like I have to be on my deathbed to eat a Big Mac, like that type of high maintenance. So I was like, I don't know how I'm like, I'm gonna have to fast for the weekend. I'm not eating like meals to go, like ramen noodle. I'm like, no, like I'll fast. So like that's what was going on in my mind. And then I was like, I have no muscle on my body. And I just finished reading this book, Living with a SEAL by Jesse Itzler. And as I was reading the book, I was just like getting pumped.
That's the guy that had David Goggins live in his house, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like reading the book and I'm just like, doing push-ups. And I'm just like, I've never done that before. Like, my book is making me do push-ups. And I'm like, if it's effective in a book, a real life Navy SEAL is going to be effective. Like, that's just what I was thinking. So I just started calling around. I'm like, I should have thought of LinkedIn, because that's where I find all my podcast guests. But I didn't think like that. And I was just like Googling and calling people that were in the service. I'm like, you guys know a Navy SEAL? Where can I find these guys? They're like, go to Coronado. And I'm like, I just have to walk around the streets asking who's a SEAL? Like, what do you mean?
Just go to the Shore Club in PB in San Diego. That's where they all hang out. The secret's out. They're all at Shore Club.
Yeah, I was like, I was like looking for something like that, but didn't have the lowdown on that. So I came across this guy, this former Navy SEAL, John McLaren's nonprofit program, Team Eagle One, right there in Santa Monica, 20 minutes from my place. I was just like, no, I can't do this. I was like, there's going to be all these guys there that are like actually training to be SEALs. I'm going to show up embarrassing them all. No. And I'm like, I want the one-on-one personal training, no judgment there, you know? And like, all these guys, there's too much judgment. And I've come a long way in 3 years getting rid of judgment. and I messaged him because he was the only one I could find, and the clock was ticking. Like, May's coming up. We're like going into March or whatever. And I said, listen, I reached out and I'm like, I just paid to get kidnapped. I'm a civilian. I see you have a special forces program. And I go, listen, can you just let me come for one day? Just want to one day participate, just see if I'll make it through and not quit. And he was like, if you're crazy enough to get kidnapped, like, come on down. And then I was like, all right, I'll let you know. And in my mind, I was going to do this like the weekend before I went to SEER. Like, I wasn't going to.
You're going to double dip. It's, might as well make it a miserable week.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? Well, I also thought, like, if I do it then I'll be ready. Like, I'll get all the skill sets. Like instead of going back to the couch and doing nothing, like, I'll be fresh and ready to go and, like, you know, succeed at the SEER thing. And he was like, I'll see you Wednesday. Oh no, Sunday. It was a Wednesday. And he messaged me back and I was like, all right, I'll let you know when I'm coming. And he goes, see you Sunday. And I was like, oh God, that's in a couple of days. Like, this Sunday? He was like, yeah, I'll see you then. And I'm like, oh my God, now I'm like really in it. I'm committed. And my dad then was visiting. He was there. He was in town as well with my mom. And I'm all nervous. It's like getting closer. My stomach's in knots. I'm like, oh my God, I can't sleep. And my dad looks at me and goes, what are you so nervous for? You're not wrestling a lion. You doing push-ups. And I was like, that was a great perspective. Like, that like really grounded me. And I was just like, I'm not wrestling a lion. I'm doing push-ups. That's all I kept saying in my mind, like, as I was going to this training. And then I show up and I get out of my car and I see these guys. Oh my God, they're huge. They look like real G.I. Joe action figures. And I like walked right back to my car. I was just like, no, this isn't happening. These guys can step on me. Like, their arms are the size of my whole body. And they're 10 years younger than me. I was 31 at the time. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then I just was like, buck up, like, get out there. Like, you have to do it. And I just went up and I said hello. And then they said hello back. And there I was at training.
And John's like, you paid to get kidnapped? Good luck.
Yeah, essentially. He's like, I really wanted to meet you in person. Like, there's this crazy person who paid to get kidnapped. And he's like, it takes a lot of courage to walk up to us. And I go, oh, I know. And then, like, it also takes a lot of courage to get kidnapped. I'm like, who does these things? And I like remember training started and I wanted to quit like first time, like 7 times in the first minute. And they were all guys. There was not one female there. And I remember we had to do this run after these push-ups that we were doing. And then we had to do this run and it like looked like a mile, like a half mile to wherever we were running and back. And it was my first time running on soft sand. I had no idea you go so slow.
It's miserable.
It's miserable. And he's like, warm up run. He's like, Tower 17 and back. And then as we go, he goes, go. And then he shouts out, it's a race. And I'm like, the hell's a warm-up run? I'm like, this is their warm-up, a race? And I'm like, they need to relook this up. The definition of a warm-up. So they're all sprinting. I mean, by the time I got back, they could have ordered a pizza. It was embarrassing. But I didn't quit. I didn't know when it was going to end. Every second was miserable. I think it ended up being like 2.5 hours, longest 2.5 hours of my life. And my body went into complete shock for like 3 days after. I don't know if you guys, I mean, you guys trained before you just went.
Yeah, I didn't just show up on a Sunday and
Yeah,
say,
you
let's
didn't
go
show
do
up
this.
My body went into shock. It couldn't move for 3 days. Now this training was 2 days a week because it was every Sunday and Tuesday. But during the week, you had gym exercises and stuff, and you had to film it. You couldn't just say you did it. You had to film it and upload it, and like it was very intense. And after I like went through the first day, I was so changed. I'm like, this is freaking amazing. Like,
Were you in and out of the water?
Yeah, we did all that stuff. Yeah.
So it's like push-ups, pull-ups, running, getting wet.
Getting wet and being covered in sand, sugar cookie like all the time then we had to do the surf torture, you laying down and all you just hear. And he said to one of the guys that helps out, he was like, I think that girl's scared of the water. I'm like, I just saw the lights go out in her eyes when I said lay down in the surf. Like, I mean, I was terrified. And you could tell the moment I lay down and I just started pure screaming, just screaming. They're trying to calm me down. These waves are hitting me. I'm like, just imagining drowning. I was like, it was miserable, like miserable. And you can't just get up. That's quitting. You have to just lay down and just trying to breathe and calm myself down. That wasn't happening. It was, it was miserable. And
so did you continue doing this, or did you?
Yeah,
how long did you do this training with him?
2 months until I left LA. So I like the first day, I called him right after, and I was like, I know I'm a civilian and all, but I'd love to come back. And I have 4 weeks until SEER experience. I was like, can I come up until SEER and then I'd like to just continue until I leave LA. I'm leaving in June. And he was like, we'd be happy to have you. And for anyone listening, by the way, I always have to make this very clear. It's a nonprofit. It's free program. So he could have easily said no. He could have been like, no, this is just for the pipeline folks, but he didn't. He was like, well, and he changed my life. I mean, from him saying that, because, not a business around it, but, he trained me. I mean, essentially I had no idea, by the way, that your training prepares you so well for the field, because what you guys do and the training that you do to then like to become a Green Beret and then become a SEAL, right? And then all the training that you do when you get there before a mission and all that stuff, it's mind-blowing to me, because like you hear about it, but then to actually like experience it, like, I mean, obviously it was in a very safe environment where we had like a code word to pull out if we needed to. And then, like I wasn't like, actually being kidnapped by the Taliban. I mean, like, like just thinking about that just terrifies me. But it was still like very immersive, and the training that he put me through saved me. Like I thrived at SEER. I'm just going to tell you that. Thrived at SEER through his training. And when I left SEER school, like that weekend school thing, and I came back to talk to everybody, I'm like, to the candidates and stuff, I was like, this stuff works, guys. Just keep showing up. You'll make it through. Like, it works, because my SEER experience crushed it.
Walk us through that. What was the civilian paid version of SEER school like? It was over a weekend? Like you started Friday and you ended Sunday?
Yeah, it was a weekend course, and like they send you a little email that, by the way, was not very informative, but they did tell you like the stuff you needed. And I remember like my brothers all lived in LA at the time, so we all lived together. And I remember us like getting together, and I was just like, okay, like it says I need a tent. I'll go on Amazon, I'll order all this stuff I need. And my brothers are like, what do you need all that stuff for? Like, you're getting kidnapped. And I'm like, I don't know. It's what the list says. And they're like, if someone goes to kidnap you right now, you're not just going to have a tent to pull out. Like, you got to go as you are. And I was just like, that's really intense. I'm like, you think I should do that? They're like, you gotta go as you are. And I'm like, oh, all
Oh,
right.
that sounds like such a brother thing to say. Yeah, you don't need any of that. Just show up with the clothes on your back.
They're like, that's it. And I'm like, they're like, I was like, I guess I'll just, and then all of a sudden, like a couple of days going up, I'm like, my mom's way more rational. And one of my brothers said it too. Like, you know what, why don't you just order all this stuff? And I'm like, no, he was right. I forgot which brother said it. I'm like, no, they should just go on the clothes on my back. And they're like, no, order the stuff. Thank God for Amazon 2-day shipping, right? Because it was like Tuesday. The stuff was coming Thursday. And I don't know how to put up a tent. Like, my family doesn't know how to put up a tent. We've never done that. So I was like, there got to be like a pop-up tent, which there is, by the way, anyone wondering. So I got this pop-up tent, and I got whatever else I needed to get. And I showed up. Thank God I had my stuff, because I didn't know this. It's like Green Beret style in terms of like they teach you and then you get kidnapped. I thought like they kidnap you instantly. You show up, your bag's over your head. Like, I don't know. So we get there, and like day one, they train you. So like they tell you like when you're going overseas, have this alias and do this and know where the embassy is, and they walk you through all this stuff. And then while you're also doing that, like they play these lying truth games with you too, to like teach you how to tell a lie and tell the truth, and when you're being interrogated and all this other stuff. And then like throughout it, they like put you in stress fact positions and stuff like that, so like you never know what's coming in a way. So there's like that learning aspect, but then there's also that stress aspect of what's going to come next, what stress position they're going to put you in, like, and things like that. So Coach Mac, the Navy SEAL that trained me, was like, Gina, when you go in there, like, you play weak link. I'm like, I don't think I need to play much. But then he was like, if they put you in stress factor like positions and stuff like that, like if they ask you what level you're at, you're always at a 10. Like, I don't care if you're at a 2, you're always at a 10. So he was like teaching me and telling me all this stuff. So when I got there, like, I played it so well. By the way, they had a special meeting about me because they really didn't think I was going to make it through. Like, they were like, this girl is in trouble.
She's going to be a huge liability for us. Don't get ourselves sued because we screw her up.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, you do sign a waiver, by the way, which they're not liable for anything.
Sign my life away.
Yeah, essentially. And also, I'm scared of the dark, scared of anything that moves. Reptiles are a no. Being outside, I love, but not sleeping outside on the ground. I mean, it's bizarre for me. I sleep in a mattress.
What's wrong with you people?
So all this stuff I was just like not ready for. I did take myself to Petco to hold the snakes, so just in case there is an encounter of reptiles, I won't freak out as much because I got snake holding treatment. Which, by the way, the first time they brought the snake out, I did cry out of fear. So it took me like 9 times to show up at Petco to like not cry and get over that fear. Now I could reach my hand into the cage and pull out a snake. So it obviously, the training of showing up to Petco to get over the snake fear worked. And I show up, they do all this, whatever. And at night, again, they don't tell you anything. I'm sleeping in this pop-up tent, and this sleeping bag that said it's good for 20 below, it wasn't. Okay. I was like a rotisserie chicken, like rotating because I was so cold at each side that wasn't on the, like, it was miserable. Like, I put on as much clothes as I possibly had. I was freezing, but I thought they were going to snatch you right there in the tent. Like, I couldn't sleep. There was no sleeping at all peacefully. So in the morning,
Friday the 13th experience, Freddy Krueger or Jason comes in with the mask and just grabs you out of the tent.
That's what I was picturing, by the way. Like, that's what was in my mind. And I will tell you, I work in the film business, so I have very active imagination going on up here. And I think everything's true. Everything's coming to life. And I'm sleeping by myself in a tent too, which is also terrifying because there's nobody to protect me. What am I going to do? and so,
is this like out in the hills in LA?
It was in like the mountains by Big Bear. So up in the mountains, like by San Bernardino, Big Bear area. And the next morning, they're like, how'd you sleep? And I was like, not well. I was like, in my mind, I was like, play the violin, like really ham it out. Like, you know, you didn't sleep, can't, you know, like I told them everything. I was just like, I couldn't sleep. I've been up all night, freezing. And they're like, where's your coat? And I'm like, it's Southern California. I don't own a coat. And they're just like, oh my God. Then they're really starting to panic. Because not only did I go through the night with no sleep, they're like, now she's going to go through the second night with no sleep. We're kidnapping her. And then they're like, she has no coat. And then they're like, are you wearing cotton? And I was like, yeah, sweatshirt. And they're like, that kills. And I'm like, what do you mean cotton kills? And they're like, it sucks the warmth out of you. And I'm like, that should have been in the email. Like, right? And like, that should have been the email. I was like, I'm a civilian. I just want to make that very clear to you people. There is no survival instincts in here. Like, and by the way, did you guys see the movie Sound of Freedom?
No, but I've been told I need to see it.
Have you, Greg?
I haven't seen it. No.
You guys know of it?
Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, I know of it.
It's the human trafficking one, right?
Yes. So half of the guys I think there was like 12 of us or 11 of us in this being kidnapped, like, you know, they were going to get kidnapped.
Paid kidnapping program.
Yeah, the paid kidnapping program. One of the groups, they came as a group together. There was 5 of them, I think. They were part of Operation Underground Railroad. So they're like, so that movie, you know, he has this whole organization, these 5 people, they came here because they're like, we sometimes get into these sticky situations and we need to learn. We paid for this program specifically to learn. So they were like ex-military, SWAT, like all this stuff. And then I'm with the group that's like brain scientist, me, like, you know, like
just the curious individuals of like, what would it be like?
Yes, that was us, you know. And and also, thank God the brain scientist had a extra coat. And he was like, I have an extra coat. And I was like, thank God. Because then we find out like they're going to soak us from head to toe. That was another reason they were concerned about me, because they were like, she has no other clothes. We're going to soak her. The cotton's not going to dry. Like, it's just not going to make it through the night. Like, she's goner. And that's why they had that special meeting about me. Then he gave me the coat, thank God, 2 hours before training. I really wouldn't have made it through without that coat. Like, always have a coat on you. If this is a lesson right here.
Not a cotton coat.
Yeah, not a cotton coat.
And I mean, I do. People are like, you really don't own a coat? It's like, well, I have a cashmere coat. I wasn't bringing that out into the woods. I don't have like a North Face. So I did like own a coat, but just not that kind of coat they wanted.
It makes me so happy knowing that you're from Long Island. My wife's from Staten Island. I grew up a lot in Long Island too. And like hearing about some of the people she interacted with growing up, the princess, the Italian princesses and stuff like that out there. And then you go into LA. I know exactly the type of people that get themselves in these situations. Like, I have zero life experience outside of like the nice suburbia and urban community where everything is kind of there. You don't need to have survival instincts other than, you know, surviving New York is its own thing, but that's not surviving the woods and nature.
Yeah, I'm Long Island. Very different than the city. Okay, Long Island.
Yes,
very different from the city.
Where on Long Island are you from?
Sayville, Long Island. So it's like,
okay,
it's like South Shore, where the ferries go to get to Fire Island. Very beautiful town, really nice town. Great place to grow up. I will ask you though, did your wife, or maybe you know, did they have Sweet 16s out there? Do you know? She
didn't do that, but she had a lot of friends. As I said, she grew up on Staten Island, so it was all the Italians and stuff that are out there. They love that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. My family were 100% Italian. They, everyone, you know, you had Sweet 16s, you know, on Long Island. They were like weddings. Mine was, but I will say mine was like a backyard thing. I was like, I don't want to be in a dress. I don't want to be like, I just want backyard. We had a dunk tank. We had like all this fun stuff. Like, that's what I wanted. So in a way, like, people were like, I've always been very scrappy as a child. Like, always like had that rough and tough, like, scrappiness to me. But at the same time, like, no survival instincts. Like I said, my family's.
There's no exposure to it.
Yeah, no exposure to it. I always wanted to camp. I was like, can we please go camping? I like beg my parents like to go camping. And they were just like, no, like, we're taking like, And my dad was like, I'm taking you on a cruise this summer. And I'm like, we did that last summer. That was our thing. We did a lot of cruises because it's like, for any parents listening, it's the best thing for you to get a vacation because you throw the kids in their thing and then you get to do your thing and you don't have to worry. My dad loved it. He was like, this is the best. And I didn't get my camping experience until I left and went out to LA. And then I got that, obviously. I really got the camping experience through this thing. And then we found out, like circling back to SEER, that at some point that day, when you woke up the next day, they still did a bunch of training. And this is when they taught you like interrogation. This is when they taught you how to get out of handcuffs, like all this stuff. So really prep you for like when the kidnapping happened. And I did like I said, I was playing it where I was the weakest link. Like we did do some hand-to-hand combat and like a gun training, if a gun's in front of her, like disarming and stuff like that. And I pretended I never held a gun before when I go to the range at least once a week. So like I pretended I didn't know any combat when I was taking private Brazilian jiu-jitsu lessons. So like there were some things that like I knew and I was downplaying like further. But for most part, I didn't have to downplay much. And we did do like an interrogation thing where we had to like lie to everybody and see if we were telling the truth or not. And as a trained actress, obviously I crushed that one. And then so they all believed my completely made up story. I cried on the spot. And what they didn't realize though is like I was ready, like for when they kidnapped you, like I was so ready for this experience. Like the moment the bag was going over my head, like and they take it off, like I was gonna be like crying, like snot coming out of my nose, crying, like really playing it. I was picturing my son and letting them. I don't have a son, by the way. I'm having kids. I was gonna tell them I did. They didn't know much about me, and they even said it was hard to find like my personal stuff online, like about like anything personal to use against me. So they were like, I was like ready. I was like ready to like really ham it up about my family back home and my, my 2-year-old son that needs me. And then when it happened, it was later in the afternoon. And a flash pin went into, we were in kind of like a 1-room schoolhouse and there was an exit at each end, an entrance and exit on each end. And we were just like working on some training. And then the flash pin went into the room and they screamed everybody down. There was like 20 people surrounding the 1-room schoolhouse, and then they were coming in through both entrances, and they're just grabbing you. They're just grabbing you and putting a bag over your head. I guess zip tying you. I don't really know, because what happened was I had Coach Mac in my head going, Gina, look up, situational awareness. Not something I would have ever done before, by the way. I would have crawled into a ball and just like looked down on the ground pretending. I guess I just feel like the little child that like, my nephew did this the other day where he's 2 and he put his hands over his head to play like hide and seek. And he really thinks that if he can't see you, you can't see him,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I was picturing. Like when I went down and I put my hands over my head, like they can't see me. Like obviously that because I
I'm now
can't see.
invisible.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So he was in my head going, you're not invisible, look up. and I looked up and I saw like Operation Underground Railroad go plowing out of the building. And I was just like, oh my God, I didn't know escape was an option. Like, I know it's really not an option. Like, you guys have to, there's no escape for you guys, what you guys went through. But I was like, that makes more sense. Just don't get kidnapped in the first place. You don't have to worry. It makes sense. So I look and I see them run and I go, oh my God, get up and run. So I get up and I start running. And now they're really on high alert. They're grabbing and stuff. And I go, make yourself small, make yourself small. So I jump back down because they're grabbing the big dudes that are leaving. And all of a sudden I look up, I'm down on the floor again. I look up and there's a small little opening for me because they grab some girl's backpack. And as they're focused on her and her backpack, there's this little opening that only a 5 foot under 100-pound person can make. Like, that's it. And I was like, this is my opportunity. I want to point this out, by the way. I forgot. This is the best part of the story. Right before all this was happening, and I got the coat and stuff, and they were telling me what was going to happen. And as they're telling me they're going to get wet, I'm wearing a cotton sweatshirt. Like, I'm making tears come into my eyes. Like, I'm making them, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make it, guys. Like, I'm really like crying.
Really
Okay.
prepping those tear ducts.
I really am. I'm getting it ready, lubing it up, and and I get outside and I look up and I go, listen, I don't ask you for anything. I never pray. I was like, but this is the moment. I need you to come through for me. And I'm like, I need this kidnapping to be just safe. I want to stay dry. I want this to be as easy as it can. Just hook me up. And I then went inside, and then the flashbang incident happened. So now we're back to this, right? And then that opening, that was my answered prayer, that little opening. And I was just like, it's made for me. And I ran right through that opening, and they had paintball guns. So what they had was they had paintball guns, they had a drone, they had access to cars, and they told us that they had the infrared heat night goggles.
Night vision goggles.
Yep.
Yes. Apparently they lied to us a lot to make us think they had certain stuff that they didn't have. So that they did not have. The drone and stuff they had because I saw it. But I ran out, and then you kind of go through this little parking lot area, and they were like, if we shoot you at any point in the game, you have to go down, and they kidnap you and stuff like that. So I didn't think they were shooting at cars. Like, that's just, a liability right there. We're in a game, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't looking behind me. I was just running. Now they were coming after us, and they were getting into cars and stuff like that. And once you get through that parking lot, it's a free fall down. Like, it's like you hit the ledge of the mountain. It's like a straight, like a really steep point down. I thought I was instantly in Hunger Games at that point. It was just like
tossing yourself off the cliff.
Off the cliff. I was down. I lost my water bottle. I was like, let it go, let it go. Just keep going. And at one point I thought I was gonna like fall over, like, roll and stuff like that. That's how fast we were going down the mountain. And I'm just like following these guys. I'm just like, you got to keep up right now. I know you were always last. Team Eagle One. I'm like, you need to at least be in eyesight with these guys, because then you're going to be just lost on the mountain by yourself. and I wasn't going to go back in there because I just pissed them off. Like, think about it. Like, I just escaped. Like, whatever they were planning on doing to me, there was just like no forgiveness after that. Like, they were going to like double down and make my life miserable. So I was just like, I can't go back. So I kept up with these guys as they're going down, up, side to the mountain. They're trying to lose these guys. And then they're like, we regroup. And what happened was there's 11 of us. So like it was 5 and 6 or whatever. That it was supposed to be pairs of twos. You're always supposed to be in pairs of twos, again, for liability reasons. Mm-hmm. However, they were like, you guys can be one group, Operation Underground Railroad, and then we could be another group, They made it out. That's, Operation Underground Railroad. They made it out. All of them. Their whole team made it through. Great leadership. My team. So
you ditched your buddy?
I left them all. The whole team. They were gone. They all got tortured, and I just left.
Y'all on your own.
They're on their own. Like, and we get there. We get to the end, and again, remember, like, I'm really playing it like I'm done for. Like, I'm the loser of the group. So when we make it, like when they stopped to regroup and see who made it, because no one knew who made it out. Like, everyone was just kind of for their own. They had an idea, but they didn't know. And all of a sudden, like, they see me. I'm with them, and they're like, Gina, oh hi. I'm like, you mind if I join you guys? My team, they're in the middle of torture. They're gone. And they're like, no, yeah, come join us. And then we broke off into twos. So there were 6 of us total. We brought off twos because now they're tracking us, and they have the cars, and they have all this other stuff that we don't have. So we branched off into twos, and then we had a designated meeting spot where we were all 6 of us were going to regroup and meet at. But since they were tracking us, we wanted to not have the same, scent, whatever it's called, So because we did do a little bit of land nav. during training. We did like, they did do stuff like that, building shelter, all that stuff. I learned a lot that I mean, I didn't know anything, but I didn't know you can't just sleep on the floor. Like you have to, like put leaves down and, insulate it, they call it, or whatever. And I was just like, oh, I would never known that. I didn't know any of that. So I left and we had a password, Oklahoma. That was our safe word. We had a safe word. So that way, like at any point in the game, like you say Oklahoma, they stop, and I left my phone up there, because I wasn't going to take it with me. I lost the water bottle. I would have obviously lost my phone. My life would have been over. I live in America. That's our biggest problem. So, so I left that there. I didn't know this, but they were all texting me and blowing up my phone, Oklahoma, because these guys were pissed. The SEER instructors, they never had people escape. Like you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to get kidnapped. So like they're calling us to get back. They're screaming. We hear them screaming Oklahoma. And I, first of all, grew up rule follower, oldest child, like, my parents said something, like, I was just like, okay, like, I just, followed the rules. So they're screaming Oklahoma, and I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, I think we're supposed to go back. They're like, do you really want to go back? And I'm like, no. And they're just like,
These are definitely former operator type guys that are like, no, we're not going to go back. We're going to bend the rules.
Yeah. They were like, no, they're like, and I'm like, yeah, but I guess they're right. I'm like, I think, because the point of the game is to get kidnapped. Like they want us to go get kidnapped. And they were just like, the point of the game should really be not to get kidnapped in the first place. And I was just like, and once they made that like sound logical in my head, I was like, new rule. This is the new rule I'm following. And I'm not of that incepted. Yeah. So my new partner that I was with, and we met up with 2 other people, and we're running along the mountain and stuff like that. I mean, the blood I was tasting in my mouth as we were doing all this running, I'm choking, coughing, and I'm like, I'm going to be the one that gets my team captured, because you can't not hear me. I'm coughing like from all the dust that's in this new environment I've never been in before. Like my body's not used to this. So I'm like coughing like crazy, and I'm like trying, in my mind, I'm just like, get it together. Like these guys are regretting having you. They'll just leave you. So I'm just like trying to make myself like the most important member. Like, and I will tell you this, Coach Mack used to always say, the teammate next to me is more important than me. That was one of his big lessons. And it took like literally the week before SEER training to understand what was going on, like how to understand that lesson, because I've always been an athlete my whole entire life. But I learned that I wasn't a very good teammate, just from the fact that when he said my teammate next to me is always important to me, my response was, I'm important too. And then he was like, you don't get it. And I'm like, no, I don't get it. Because if we're in battle and I'm injured, I mean, or I have to leave my team, like have to save myself, which obviously I just proved I can do in the SEER experience. So you didn't really want me on on your team, like I'm leaving you, like flat out, I'll say it. So it took me 4 weeks to learn, when we were like standing in surf, and we finished surf torture. We're standing outside, we're in formation. It's freezing out. My arms have goosebumps all over them. My lips are purple. My teeth are chattering. And I'm just so focused on me and my misery that I feel all the pain. And I look to the guy next to me, and I notice he's exactly the same. Purple lips, freezing, goosebumps. And I'm like, oh my God, he's just as cold. So I was like, I got up next to him. I put my arm up against him, which obviously made him like look at me, because it's like, why are you touching me? And I'm like rubbing my arm up against him. I'm like, I'm gonna make us warmer. And then I'm like talking through my teeth, so Coach Mack didn't know or anything. And I'm like, just breathe. I'm coaching him to like breathe. And I noticed when I was doing that, all my pain went away. I wasn't so focused on me and my misery. And then I was like, oh, the teammate next to me is more important than me. I get it. Like, now, like, yeah, I'm like out of my head. Like, this was life-changing news. And then when I'm at SEER school, by the way, the first day, you see me, you're like, you don't want me on your team, right? And yet the whole entire time, this Saturday, daytime, before the kidnapping, I'm like, if you guys need anything, I'm here for you. Like, whatever you guys need. And they're all looking at me like, what the heck? Why would we need her? But the thing was is that, like, I was just wanting to help to get out of my own head. Like, I just wanted to get out of this fear of what was going to happen. So the whole entire time, that's all I'm doing. So when we're out in the wild, being chased and stuff like that, I'm like, what can I do, guys? What do you need me for? They're like, you just get down in the ditch, you lay there. And I'm like, give me something else. Snakes live down there. Like, and so like, that was like, it was just funny. Like the whole experience was just like fun and interesting and stuff like that. And we met up with the other two people, we didn't make it to 6. It was 4 of us that got together. And we ended up hiding behind a boulder because, you know, at the time we thought they had the heat infrared goggles, so they can't see through, you know, a rock.
Mm-hmm.
And then we laid there. We cuddled like we were in a quad relationship. I never met these guys in my life. I don't like being touched that night. I had no problem with it. We were falling down the mountain as we were laying because it's a hill, like it's steep. And so the 2 guys, because there was a girl with me, she looked like G.I. Jane. I was just like, oh my God, don't even try and keep up with these people. And they took a tree trunk, like a big tree trunk, and they put it in between 2 other trunks, so that way we had a ledge to lay on. So our feet were on the ledge, so we weren't sliding down the mountain and then over a cliff. Thank God someone had smarts like that, because I wasn't thinking that. And we made it through. We were just cuddling and we were just like getting to know each other. And at one point, one of them were doing like burpees and stuff because it was 37 degrees that night. Thank God for that guy's coat. Yeah. 37 degrees. And the next morning we made our way back to camp. And I'll never forget when I showed up and one of the instructors was like, oh my God, Gina, thank God.
You're not dead.
Yeah, they were like, we checked, because I don't know about your SEER experience or like what the difference is, but like we were allowed to, without them knowing, like hide stuff around the mountain. Were you guys able to do things like no?
Was that beforehand?
Yeah, so like as we're going through training and stuff like that, like when they're teaching us how to pick locks and stuff, we were allowed to steal the key and put it in our we made SEER pants.
We'd have to like that on us. So we had. I was actually going to ask earlier when you mentioned that you guys were learning how to get out of handcuffs. I'm like, so do you always have a bobby pin in your hair now? You ready? Ready to get arrested?
We had the SEER pants that we made and stuff like that. Did you guys do that? Or?
Yeah, it's with you have thread that Kevlar thread to help cut through stuff. Yeah. Maybe a bobby pin sewn in someplace.
Yeah, we took that stuff. I was all worried. Like I was like, I can't take this stuff. They're like, you have like again like that. You have to get rid of that mindset. It's like do or die. And I was just like, but I guess in my way it was like, if I did take it and they catch me, like I'm like, am I that sneaky? You know, like I didn't think I was. And then when we were making it back, like because my backpack was still in, there was no way I was going back from it. I wasn't going back for anything. Like they were like, we knew where the backpack was because one of my teammates said something, because I mean, they were like, at some point it was my safety. They were very concerned by. And then I come back, I see my team and I'm like, how'd you guys do? Like, thanks for leaving us.
You left us to die.
I was like, no, I was going to get help, because if I stayed with you guys, no one was coming. And so that's how I played it. I was like, you should be thanking me, because I was the only person that even knew you guys were being kidnapped. Like I was going out there to save you. And
like, sure, Gina.
Yeah, exactly. What a good that did us.
The brain scientist got waterboarded. He was like, I would have said Oklahoma. He's like, had I known, like if I was able to speak, I would have said Oklahoma. He's like, that was miserable. Like, you guys have been waterboarded, right? I mean, you have to go through it, right? We had one guy on the show, Don Mann was on the show, and he said he loved it because he was like, he learned how to.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say they loved it.
Yeah, well, he's like, it's a strong word.
No, I guess maybe he didn't say, maybe he didn't mind it as much, because he said he learned how to like breathe out like as it was. I don't even know. I've never been waterboarded. It's not something on my list. I'll say I definitely can't get through it, and I won't. Not gonna even put myself through that one. But
There's no need to. It's
there's
it's
no need.
properly
There's
miserable.
no need. Yeah, so he got waterboarded. One kid like spent 45 minutes, his head was in shit. Yeah. They put them through a lot of stress factors and stuff. I think they tie you to a tree and put like your head upside down, put like your head on a pine cone or something like that. Um yeah,
Okay.
they hose you down, they put you in the shower, and it's freezing water, it's 37 degrees outside, you know. So it was interesting, all the stuff that they told me that, you know, they did, and I was just so grateful for that prayer. I was like, I actually said to them, I'm like, you guys should have prayed. It worked for me. and yeah, and that was it. That was the experience. I did escape. I think it took like 3 or 4 hours of the torture before they were able to escape. And then one girl ended up like getting captured again. Like
They're just like, you would not survive, unfortunately. Just come back to camp.
yeah,
So,
well what happened was is after you escape, if they find you while they're hunting you throughout the night, they just like zip tie you or handcuff you. They do something in that capacity, and
mhm,
then you have to get yourself out of that, and then go back. They don't
continue
like
on.
bring you back. Yeah, they just yeah, do that to you, and that was it. And that was the experience. That was my
So you
SEER
crushed it
experience.
through SEER, and now you're like, this was a life changing experience between Coach Mac and the SEER experience. And now you're going to create a entire business idea out of that. You know, you have the podcast.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't
No,
know
no, no,
that.
I'm not saying this was the plan, but like afterwards, you
No,
just
no,
take.
no. I mean, like that still wasn't the plan. Like
Oh,
I
really?
finished,
Okay.
yeah, no, that was not the plan. So what I was just again like experiencing life. I always tell people like you have an idea, like just experience it because you don't know what career path's going to happen. And when I was at Team Eagle One, I learned the meaning of belonging. It was something I was searching for my entire life. I learned that belonging and fitting in are opposites because I did not fit in. Like if you came to watch us at the Santa Monica Pier, you could point me out, no problem. Like probably the
Mm-hmm.
first one you'll spot. Yet, but I still belonged with them. Like and that was because I showed up as myself every single week, and that was it. And I was like, oh my god, if 7-year-old me learned this lesson, like my life would be so different. Like maybe I would have been the kid that talked in school. Maybe I would have been as confident as I am now. Maybe my self worth would be what it is today. Um, and so I decided to write a children's book. So that Sunday was my last day of training. I think it was like June 2nd or something like that. I don't remember. Last day of training. And I said, tomorrow I'm taking myself to Joshua Tree and I'm going to write a children's book on belonging because this is what you guys taught me. And it's really special message. So I went out to the desert by myself. I had a camper, like I rented an Airbnb. I wasn't gonna camp, and one
Anymore.
and done. And I took myself to the desert, no internet or anything like that, and I wrote my children's book 4 hours. And I called my friend, and I'm like, I'm gonna read you what I wrote. What do you think? And she was like, I love it. And I go, great. I'm gonna publish it. And then I spent the next year and a half learning publishing, learning how to write and work with I got an editor. I worked with an illustrator. It took 7 months to illustrate. I learned a little bit of marketing here and there, and then I did an animation for it. And a year and a half later, I published my book. And then I realized like I can make money. Like can be a career for me. Like right now, I left LA. Like I'm still working in the business, but I am writing for TV shows. So if my show gets picked up, I get paid. If my show doesn't get picked up, I don't get paid right now. So it's like that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of pitching my own shows, which is very difficult. It's like you don't know when it's going to happen. So I was like, okay, like this money, I have all this money from California. I might as well, use it for a business. And then I became a children's author, like officially, where like I go touring to schools, I do speaking events, and not only do I do schools, then I do business speaking events too, like at corporations and stuff. And I share my story. I share Team Eagle One experience with the SEER experience and how it taught me belonging, and my teammate next to me is more important than me. I talk about the first time I went to do a pull-up and I couldn't do it, and instead of laughing at me, my team helped me and they encouraged me, and they never judged me. Like, they were so supportive. And I talk about all this stuff and how we can incorporate it into civilian life and how we can be better people and all this other stuff. And now I'm writing my second book, but while I do these speaking events, everyone always asks about my own, like my memoir, like Training with a SEAL. So I decided to then write it as a book. And I decided, since I marketed my children's book so poorly the first time, I didn't know anything about marketing. I just thought, you put it on Amazon, everyone's gonna buy it. Why not, right? It's my book.
Yep.
And who am I? So I learned all that, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do this podcast, Training with a SEAL. I was originally going to call it that. Now it's Mindset Lessons from the Field, but to help market my new book, Training with a SEAL. And I figured I'll get a bunch of special forces on the show. I'll not only learn from them, but it'll help me with writing the book, because also I'm around these amazing, inspiring people that hearing their story just makes me want to keep writing and building a business. And it's very frustrating at times, or it can be, and you have to just like be neutral to it all. So I learn all this stuff. I learned through the stories, and the teacher I have now who trains special forces, how to get rid of emotions and how to be more neutral and all this other stuff. And as a female, that's really hard. Okay, getting rid of emotion. Okay. So I've been learning all this stuff, and then I marketed again. That's how I did it. I decided I'm going to market my new book, and then boom, next thing you know, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is it. Like, speaking, writing, being podcast host, and while I'm doing all this, I could pitch all my shows, and when something hits, great. Like, I could just live this life, and that's it. And that's how it all happened.
That's exactly how Greg and I have been looking at this. Like, we have the community of veteran entrepreneurs where we help bring veterans who are interested in starting their businesses together so they can support one another. We have the newsletter, so we can just do our creative writing as an outlet. We have this podcast. We can talk with interesting people like yourself to hear different perspectives and stories and share those ideas with people. We do the marketing stuff. We help other veterans create podcasts and start newsletters and create communities. So it turns into this almost self-licking ice cream cone where we do these things, but then we also help others do those same things. And then, like we were talking about before we started the show, it's great to have an ecosystem of other podcasters and content creators, because now you can share ideas and guests and resources with one another. And so it helps the whole community grow and become more successful instead of trying to go about it on your own.
100%.
And I also want to mention our news service that we have, which is We Will Kidnap You off the street for a one-time fee of $25,000. I will make that shit the most realistic kidnapping that you have ever witnessed or experienced.
We already have a white cargo van. We're ready to go.
Dude, I will kidnap the shit out of anybody listening to this that wants to pay me $25,000, and it will be real as fuck. I'm telling you.
You know what? I'm just going to
call it the Gina experience.
Yes, I like it.
I said, you have a plan for yourself. I don't know if you guys do. Like, I have a plan for myself on the 1 year, the 3 year, the 5 year on the podcast, where it's going to go. And the 3 year mark, I would love to host an event. And I want to do a mini Hell Week or something like that, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, with some of the guests that can run it and stuff like that. We should do what you just said.
Dude, yeah,
we'll call it the Gina experience.
Right? The two podcasts coming together for this event, 3 years. We got to do it.
And any Hollywood celebrities that are... Go on.
One of my buddies is a SEER instructor right now, so we'll bring him in. He'll be out by that time. So we'll bring him in, and he'll give us all the good deets on how.
If there are any Hollywood celebrities, socialites, wealthy individuals who need to test their mettle or need to prepare in case a pending kidnapping happens, we can do it. A Navy SEAL, a Green Beret, and a SEER instructor, and a comedian We'll kidnap you.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'm down. This sounds awesome. I actually want to do it. Just as, forget the business.
I'm not kidding about this.
No,
I'm very
this
serious
sounds
about
great.
it. I will.
Oh, anything that comes out of my mouth is serious.
Yeah.
I mean, I proved it when I was like, I guess I'll go test if I can survive a kidnapping. I guess I'll be a children's author. Like, I just like, I say it and then I'm just like, I feel like that when I say it, it's like my commitment. Like, I'm a person that's like, if I say I'm going to show up, I'm going to show up, So I feel like when I say it, I'm like, it's happening. So 3 years, it's happening.
Especially once you put it out in the public domain, like put it on this podcast, it's going to happen now.
It's going to happen.
Hundreds, hopefully by the time this goes out, thousands of people will have heard about it. And now you can't back down.
I won't back down.
So what do you have coming up now? I know you have the speaking stuff. What shows are you working on right now? What's your current project that you're trying to pitch?
So the one I'm pitching right now, it's a fun one. I'm nervous. I don't want to say it because like it's starting to get out there and I just want to I mean, I don't think anyone's going to steal it, but at the same time, like just an idea of like coming,
Mm-hmm.
Coming from it, but it's an awesome show. It's interesting. It's fun because it's not a show I'd ever watch. It's like a thriller. It's a terrifying show. It's absolutely terrifying. And it's so fun to write and be involved in, but at the same time, and it's very conspiracy, and I'm into conspiracies. I love them. You have a conspiracy out there. I want to know about it. I want to hear it. I want to study it. I want to learn if it's true or not. Like I love all that stuff. So it's kind of like conspiracy, thriller, futuristic, kind of dystopian. So I'm excited for that. We're getting ready. I'm actually rewriting the pilot right now for it. And we're getting it out there hopefully by the end of the summer. I'm writing my second children's book right now. And I just decided to brand my aliens. So that was another thing. Like the children's book, he's an alien, the main character. And I just expected to be like a one and done book. So I didn't like give the alien a gender. I didn't give the alien a name. I didn't give the alien a planet where it was from. And it kind of bit me in the ass because now I got to go backtrack and change the book around. And now I'm branding the character, male, Cosmo, the alien. And I'm starting a new YouTube channel for him. And it's all kids and stuff. So I'm spending the whole entire month creating kid songs, animations, all that stuff. I learned animation. And that'll happen in August. And then I'm writing my memoir, Training with the SEAL, as I am still doing the podcast. Every Wednesday I release a show. And it's just, I'm having fun, living my best life.
You are just a modern day Renaissance woman with all the different things you're learning and doing at the same time. Do you worry you're overextending yourself and you're not able to give any one thing enough attention or effort?
No, I was at one point. At one point, I was just like, I can't keep up. This is really hard. I'm overwhelmed. And my teacher, the one that he's going to be on the show, Randy Weitenheimer, he trains special forces. He was like, you don't get overwhelmed. My students don't get overwhelmed. I don't train you for that. He is like, it's one step he goes, everything's in steps. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. He's like, you don't think about it in terms of, like this is going to be, if I gave more attention to this, it would be more successful. Well, it's not accurate because nothing is guaranteed, So you just kind of move forward in every single aspect and we'll see which one hits and whatever is going strong. Like the book, I didn't expect. It just hit. Schools were booking me. Next thing you know, I'm like, this is an avenue. And I went in that direction. The bracelets, I went full steam ahead. It wasn't working as one person. And I said, okay, hobby. This is going to be for festivals. I'm going to sell this here. I'm going to do more stuff that way. So I'm kind of navigating and learning that. I don't get overwhelmed anymore. I just kind of do one thing at a time and see what happens. And that's it. Why stress?
How do you, I guess, prioritize your time and allocate time to different tasks?
I get up really early. I mean, I'm so structured and disciplined with my life. My family thinks it's like unhuman, and I go, well, you're never gonna understand it because not, like I can't make someone who's undisciplined understand discipline. It's just like, and the thing is like like Randy said to me, like what he gives me these exercises, and what they're meant to do is to help me to become the person I want to be, like this. So what I did was 40 days, I had to get up and go to bed at the same time every single day. And then during that time, I had to do like log rolls, sun salutation, cold showers in the morning. And then at night, it was a hot shower, a meditation, a journal, a sun salutation, and then going to bed. So it was like a whole like routine. And it started at 5 in the morning and it started at like 9 at night. And there was no wiggle room. And if you messed up, like if it was like 9:05 or 9:15, you had to restart to day one. And I had to restart 4 times before I hit my 40 days. And the key is, and he was like, it's fine. If you have to restart, you just can't quit. And that's the thing in life. Like, it's okay if you have to stop for a minute, but it's not okay to quit. Unless like there comes a point where you may have to quit, right? But it's after you exhausted everything, and that's what I do. And that's what I did. So I had to restart 4 times. With the 4th time, I made it through and I got to my 40 days. There was like, things happened. Like my plane was delayed. That was terrible. The ride that I purposely picked a plane that was going to get me in before 9:00 and my ride didn't show up on time. And I'm like, no, I got to start 40 all over. But it's like, you can't get
How far
mad.
into it were you at that point?
Oh, I had like 12 days left or something like that. It was like
this
so
fucking
close.
driver.
Yeah, and then I was like with my mom the night before the last 40 day, and she was like feeling a little sick or something like that. And I'm like, listen, if you have to go to if an ambulance comes, if something like if this is serious, like, she was like appendix, she was like, my right side's hurting. I was like, you can't. I was like, this is my last night. I was like, you're on your own. She was like, what? And I'm like, I'm not restarting. You're on your own.
So this must have been before your teammates to your left and right are more important than you.
No, this was like last week.
Sorry, Mom, you're expendable.
Yeah, this was last week. I just finished my 40 days, and now I'm on to a 6-month thing. Yeah.
Okay. So you get up early, you start working. Like, is it just a giant block of I'm going to work, or do you say, all right, I'm going to work for a couple hours here, I'm going to go work out, I'm going to work a little bit more, I'm going to go for a walk? Like, how do you?
It should be more like that.
Your time?
It's usually like I do my morning routine, and then I sit down in the computer and I start checking boxes on like some stuff. Like usually the morning is like podcast stuff, and then I run some errands. I'm in the middle of a move right now, so it's like during the day, like by like 10, 11 o'clock, I have to then run a bunch of errands and stuff, which is really great because it gets me off of my ass. Like sitting on a computer all day, not good. Also, I live on the beach. So, and these challenges that I'm doing right now, I'm loving because again, it gets me to like do stuff. Like, I did like run on the sand yesterday. Today I'm treading water. Tomorrow I think it's like a 3-mile rock or something like that. But it gets me gets the body moving and stuff. And then I go back and then I work again. I do a hard out at the end of the night, like usually like 8 o'clock, hard out. I need sleep. And that's really it. And then I just say, okay, right now it's going to be animation time. Right now it's going to be podcast time. Right now it's going to be answering emails or being a guest on a show or having guests on my show time. And I allocate that way. My food is really easy. I'm a meat eater. I'm pretty much animal based. So, just throw a steak in the air fryer and then come back to it. I'm eating a pound of meat a day. So it's like, I'm pretty sustained for the day. I just drink water. Really don't. I do go out. I mean, I have my Aikido class and stuff. And like being that it's summer, there's concerts. So I like go to like an outdoor concert. Like I'm with my mom. So she really likes to do stuff and she also likes to travel. So I always just think like as much she pulls me away from work. And I used to get a little frustrated, but at the same time, I'm realizing like it's so good for me to just like get away, be with her, do some stuff. She's not gonna be around forever. So I gotta, maximize that time and have some fun. So, and then when when my brother needs me with my nephew, he's 2, I drop everything. He's in California. I'm on the East Coast at this point. He's like, hey, can you come watch Lincoln for 2 weeks. And I'm like, when do you need me? He's like, next week. And I'm booking a flight to California and I'm out there. I bring my computer with me and then I work when he naps. That's how it works. Like, so like, you make it work. I get up super early. He gets up at 7. I know that I need at least till 10 o'clock to work. So I'll get up between 3 and 4 and then I'll work until 7. And that'll give me my hours on what it normally would be if I was home and getting up at 5. So, you just like make it work. And then like I'm gonna batch a bunch of content. Me and my mom are going to Puglia, so I'll batch a bunch of content and get that out, so that way like I can enjoy the trip and not work. Like so in a way it's kind of like a balance of both. But sometimes I do sit down and just like work for like a straight 8 to 10 hours. And one exercise for anyone listening that's interesting, Randy had me do was write what I do every 15 minutes down. So every 15 minutes, write down what you do. And he was funny because he was like, you'll find out that you don't actually do much. And I'm like, you'll find out that I actually do a lot. And like, I gave him my list and he was like, oh my God, you're a great worker. I'm like, one of my strengths, but that's how I get it done. Like, I don't stay on social media for hours at a time. Despite working in the film industry, I don't watch TV. I'm a book reader. That's my biggest, like, I have to like, that's why I have to be like, no reading right now. I do have allocated reading time because that's like, my reward.
Your guilty pleasure.
Yeah. And now I'm loving it because now I'm doing these rucks and all this other stuff. So I just do the audiobook. I'm like, it makes me look forward to doing these, even though I don't want to do them.
That's a good way to do it.
What are you reading right now?
I just finished The Wicked King. It's part of a series. Like the first book is The Cruel Prince, and it's just like, it's kind of it's like YA fantasy, dystopian type of stuff, and I love it. And then I also read an educational book, so it's usually like a marketing book, whatever I need help in at this moment in my life, and which is usually marketing, and then my fun,
Have you read Snow Leopard?
No, but should I?
Yes, you should. If you're doing content creation, writing, and marketing, it's a little bit of all three.
Oh, amazing! Write that one down. Snow Leopard.
What about Fourth Wing? Have you read Fourth Wing?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
within 24 hours. Didn't even put that down. I was
I just finished the second book.
You did?
Embarrassed to say, yes, but my wife's friend dropped it off for Kristen. She was reading something else. I'm like, what is this trash? Because they're talking about it as like fairy porn. And I started reading, I'm like, this is dumb. It's like reading Game of Thrones and Harry Potter and Cosmo all put together. But I kept finding myself wanting to read more. I'm like, what's going to happen next?
Good,
what's going to go on with the dragons? What's going on with the sword? Like, you have to deal with the 20-year-old fantasy stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, you're like, she did a good job with the story. I'll give it to her. Both books. Yeah. Third one's coming out next year.
Yeah, I put in my mind sometimes that they're older.
Like January.
Yeah, I think it's January. Yeah, I just put in my mind, like, whatever age they are, 17, I'm like 27. Okay. I just age them 10 years. Because sometimes it's just ridiculous. I mean, here's the thing, like, Divergent, like, she's like my height, my size. She's taking down the world. Come on, let's be realistic. Like, that's not happening.
It is a little odd with some of the stuff, but you just push the I believe button, and you're like, the rest of the story is pretty good. It's entertaining. It's
entertaining. That's what it is. I'm for it.
We should try to get her on the podcast. She's a military spouse. Did you know that?
I'm sure she said something about her husband or boyfriend, whatever it was, getting through all the deployment. So I assumed she was military.
Or, she affiliated. Oh yeah,
that'd be cool.
Sure.
Yeah, cool. I'll reach out to her. My wife would just be like
Yarisman, something like that.
No,
Rebecca.
Yeah, something like that.
It's Rebecca Yarisman or something like that. Okay, so as we're closing out, you have your podcasts, the mindset lessons from the field. You have the book. What's it called again? The one that's already at the children's book.
You really truly do belong.
You really truly do belong. You have your memoir coming out. It's not called Training with the SEALs anymore, is it?
It is called Training with the SEALs.
Okay, that one's still Training with the SEAls.
Yeah. We got a podcast book coming out.
You have a podcast book.
Yeah. I'm taking all the guest chapters. I asked my guests the same question at the end. How can we develop everyday people develop mental toughness and grit on an everyday basis? They all give different answers. So each answer is a chapter in the book. And then at the end of the
Nice.
year, I'm going to come out with a book. So each year is a new book from all my guests on the show.
That's smart. Yeah, I typically ask which one thing you do with. So the name of the show is Harder Not Smarter, because there's some things in life, as you experienced with SEER School, there is no real smart way to get through stuff. And like going out to the woods with cotton sweatshirts and no jacket. Sometimes you just need to be hard to get through it. You just have to put your head down and grit through the shitty situation. So I typically ask the guests, what's something you do to keep building in that sense of adversity, to challenge yourself. But it sounds like you already have a million things. You have the 40-day challenge. You're doing the new challenge right now. I saw you're popping the balloons and reading the challenge. A whole bunch of other things. So you kind of already answered that question for us.
Yeah.
But do you have anything else you'd want to add?
I mean, just go experience life. You got an idea, go chase it, go figure it out, go see what happens. You never know what's going to happen. I had no idea whole career was going to happen from, am I going to get kidnapped? Like, can I survive a kidnapping? So just live life. You only get one life. So you might as well go and experience it and do all the things that you wish you could do, because there's going to be a day where you can't. And that's it. If you take anything away from it, it's go live life.
No regrets. No regrets.
No regrets.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
I look forward to you guys being on my show now. I'm really excited.
Yes.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And then we can also have you start writing the Gina Experience TV show, where we film us kidnapping the people who pay $25,000 for us to kidnap them.
Yes.
You know what? We'll talk about that. That's a good idea.
That
is, right? That's a good what's it called? Reality show.
Mm-hmm. How to get through survival situations.
Dude.
Tip 1, cotton kills.
But like urban. It's got to be like an urban setting for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to talk to some people.
Let's make this happen. Well, Gina, thank you so much for being on the show. My face hurts from laughing so much at this point.
Thanks for having me. It was great.